Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom as it is.
So it just goes deeper and deeper into friendship, and it's hard for her to then all of a sudden get out of that, because attraction doesn't happen through through choice or through just kind of convincing yourself. It just kind of happens as it is, just happens naturally. So going that route does not work.
No grants at all. 3 months off and not a penny.
It's hard enough to earn money as it is, but they're working against us. They're trying to get rid of this.
Now that's a lot, and that's hard enough to do as it is, but with COVID, that's going to just magnify and intensify that.
At this point in time, already. I don't want to hear any more complaints. I've got enough problems as it is.
Stop bugging him. He is mad enough as it is.
Don't give him anything more to drink. He is pretty tanked up as it is.
Эта идиома описывает ситуацию, которая достигла своего предела.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom after all.
Changes which are slow and gradual can be hard to notice, even if their ultimate impact is quite dramatic. Think about what happened, after all, to the poor frog.
And this is particularly true with user-generated content platforms, because people can rightfully claim a sense of ownership. It is, after all, their content.
You see, Big Green wants to take over your life. It has to. This makes perfect sense. Big Green, after all, intends to save the planet from oblivion.
The idiom, after all, is the phrase that indicates that something is accurate or relevant despite any objections or doubts. It is often used to emphasize a point or draw attention to an essential situation aspect.
He should have paid. He suggested it, after all.
He can't eat you, after all.
I think that Maggie has every right to know about it. She's our sister, after all.
So you made it after all.
I'm going to play Ophelia, after all.
I don't think I'm coming with you, after all.
Данная идиома может указывать на то, что есть некое обстоятельство, которое следует принять во внимание. Также она употребляется, когда хотят подчеркнуть, что некое событие произошло или произойдет вопреки ожиданиям или попыткам его предотвратить.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom at that.
But that's just a small part of the country, and a pretty misleading one at that.
There was a row of stretchers, not too long at that, in the emergency hospital space.
Do you think if we get this going again, you will actually be able to do one lap?
Yes, I do. And a good one at that.
Used when you are giving an extra piece of information in addition at the end of a sentence to emphasize the remark.
Then I was a little proud that he thought I could beat them. Single-handedly at that.
She let out such a yelp, and it was no wonder, as Tom had nothing on but a shirt, and it wasn't too long at that.
The sensitivity to social change may play its part, but in reality fashion is a business, and a hard-nosed one at that.
К этим словам говорящий может прибегнуть, когда желает добавить некую дополнительную информацию касательно только что упомянутой вещи, ставятся в конце фразы.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom you wish.
So we're approaching the coast of France. Allied troops are surrounded. We must evacuate them and deliver them to a safe place. Sounds easy? You wish.
What do you think these people have in common? Each works a regular 9 to 5, but they're also holding down a surprising side hustle. Can you guess what it is?
You can always quit now.
You wish.
Jess,
you are flirting with this machine.
Machine, do you think I'm flirting with you? Oh!
used to say that something is impossible or very unlikely, although you wish it were possible.
The job at the BBC? You wish.
I look so sexy.
You wish.
Oh, I'm definitely getting into Harvard.
You wish.
Идиома обычно употребляется в ответ на высказывание, в котором говорящий пытается выдать желаемое за действительное. Употребляется в очень неформальной речи и больше звучит, как издевка.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom is good as.
Marriage isn't institutionalized, meaning that if a couple shares sexuality, if he helps her with her garden, if they're seen together, they're as good as married.
Broderick as good as killed Diamonds with that garbage can stunt. It finished him as a leader.
But that would be the road of death. Then nothing happens any longer, at any rate, not the right things. Anyone who takes the safe road is as good as dead.
In effect, very nearly.
If his name shows up in the newspaper, he is as good as dead.
I'm as good as divorced.
So you keep telling me.
You must arrest this man, officer. He as good as stole my car.
But he didn't steal it, did he?
Эта идиома указывает на то, что некое действие или результат некоего действия почти равносильно чему-то. Не путайте данную идиому с обыкновенным сравнением.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom as well as.
It helped unemployment because people could get across town, and it had a profound impact on climate as well as many other things. There's
2 states, Virginia and Connecticut, as well as 27 cities and towns across the country, have effectively ended veterans' homelessness.
The Vega rocket I went to see sent up satellites designed to test electric solar wind sails for interplanetary travel, as well as satellites built to analyze the health of Earth's vegetation or to predict natural disasters.
In addition to someone or something, too.
Kevin bought a thick magazine as well as several books to while away the time during the journey.
A museum should aim to entertain as well as educate.
They own a house in France as well as a villa in Spain.
Идиома употребляется в значении также. Может вклиниваться в середину предложения, как вводная конструкция. Реже используется в сравнительных оборотах в значении так же хорошо, как.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom jump ship.
Number two is because I'm a convert. And this is one of those things that usually draws a lot of admiration and affinity from other Catholics. And that's nice, but it should also be a source of caution because it's a strange thing to actually jump ship and convert, especially when we live in a society where there are so many ideological lines drawn all around us.
You know, YouTube isn't my full income right now, but it is giving me the little bit of stability I need to jump ship and work on my photography and videography business and continue to develop the channel further and work on this further.
But then suddenly you're sitting there with this long list of positions that you need to fill. And of course, we just immediately turned around and started turning up the heat on them to actually jump ship and come join the team.
To leave an organization that you belong to, suddenly and unexpectedly. If you jump ship, you leave a job suddenly before it is finished, especially to go and work for someone else.
When the company announced that it was losing money, many of its employees jumped ship.
Another advertising agency offered him $1,000 to jump ship.
Cheers rang out a week ago when the Liberal Democrat government lost a vote of confidence. Some ruling party members immediately jumped ship and created new parties.
Идиома означает сменить работодателя, особенно, если на работе возникли проблемы.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom a meal ticket.
I'm hideous! Hideous! Fat and hideous! Oh, Agador, I'm in such pain!
I know, honey. It's gonna pass.
Oh, no! It'll never pass! I hate my life! Oh, there is a packed house out there. That's all I am to you, isn't it? A meal ticket!
But I think for a lot of guys, the resentment is they feel like a meal ticket, like women are simply going out with them to get a free meal, and they don't like that, especially when these same women are talking about how they want everything to be equal, except when it comes to who's going to pay for, everything.
I'm going to consider that the 30-fold. The 30-fold believer. So here Jesus is popular. He's a meal ticket. Let's make this man king. He can feed us.
A person or thing used to provide permanent financial income.
Gone are the days when a university degree was a meal ticket for life.
I just can't understand how anyone would want to do something just for money. I mean, one's job isn't just a meal ticket. It's an extension of one's whole personality.
4 out of 10 men fear their partner may be after a lifelong meal ticket.
Monica, where are you getting all of this costly shit? You don't even have a job.
Oh, all of that is from my meal ticket.
From what?
Not what, who?
Обозначает человека или вещь, на которых можно рассчитывать как на источник средств к существованию.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom and then some.
By this time, I'd picked up every single vice you'd ever heard of, and then some maybe you haven't even heard of.
Western Grand Canyon is incredibly remote and immense, and then some.
History in the hands of Stacy Schiff is invariably full of life, light, shadow, surprise, clarity of insight, and so it is again, and then some, in her latest work, The Witches.
And plenty more than that, especially more than anticipated or previously mentioned.
It looked like 20,000 people and then some at the demonstration. Did Joe give you a hard time?
Yeah, and then some.
But by simply sitting still and digesting, a chick could double this rate and then some.
Идиома указывает на то, что только что сказанное является преуменьшением. Она может касаться самых разных вещей и переводиться по-разному в зависимости от конкретного наполнения фразы.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom lick one's wounds.
When you are overwhelmed, overcome by fear, and desperate, it's perfectly reasonable to hide yourself away and lick your wounds, to stay hidden.
There have been times I've thought about quitting from Microsoft because of failure, and then you somehow you lick your wounds and you find a way to overcome it, and you find out that you emerge as a better person for it.
And then to find home and to know how precious that is and how it changes your life and how it gives you courage to do things that you may not normally do, because you can always go home and lick your wounds and that people will put their arms around you and say, you know what, it's okay.
To spend time trying to get your strength or confidence back after a defeat or a disappointing experience.
When the party has recovered from its overwhelming defeat in the last election, it will have to overhaul its organization. But that is something for the future. At present it is still licking its wounds.
England's cricketers are licking their wounds after being soundly defeated in the second test against Australia in Melbourne.
The island has never supported a farming community. One by one the farmers have tried, failed and withdrawn to lick their financial wounds.
Идиома означает временно отступать, восстанавливаясь после поражения.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom as they come.
Number 8. You enjoy the night. If this one's true, everyone at Team Top 10 is as smart as they come.
Steve Bannon is as evil as they come, but he's not stupid. I know Steve Bannon knows none of this is real.
Number 10. Pachycephalosaurus. When it came to the Pachycephalosauridae, this near 15-foot-long domed lizard was as big as they come.
Said of someone or something that displays a trait or characteristic to the utmost degree.
Is your dog smart?
As smart as they come.
Is this place dangerous?
As dangerous as they come.
Their daughter is as clever as they come.
Эти слова, добавленные в конце предложения, усиливают характеристику, данную предмету или человеку.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom go up in the world.
I went from a 4,200 square foot 5-bedroom home with a pool and a wet bar and a view of the river to a 1,600, 1,800 square foot mobile home with a view of a rusty metal shed. I've come up in the world. This is my cat-free zone, ha-ha.
He's come up in the world since their last meeting and now lives across the lake from her in an enormous mansion.
These new institutions were part of their worldview, part of their landscape of how to move up in the world and how to have educational opportunities.
To be increasingly successful, especially by advancing one's social status or financial situation from where it stood before.
You will always reap the rewards of hard work, but you can truly come up in the world by making connections and knowing the right people.
You're only going to truly go up in the world if you make a point of rubbing elbows with those of a higher social standing.
It's unsurprising how quickly Sarah has gone up in the world. Her tenacity and determination are matched only by her intelligence and talent.
Идиома может употребляться с разными английскими глаголами.
Come, move, go, rise. Go up in the world.
Чаще употребляется в британском английском.
Go move up in the world.
Употребляются в американском и австралийском английском, но считаются устаревшими формами. Вместо них используется форма
come up in the world.
Форма данной идиомы
rise up in the world
в основном встречается в литературных произведениях.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom as a matter of fact.
As a matter of fact, you probably had some conflicts today that you could think of.
And you've had interesting issues with your education and growing enrollment.
Yes.
Have you been following that issue?
Very closely, as a matter of fact.
As a matter of fact, by every measure, Dutch people, young and old, smoke half the marijuana per capita that we do here in the United States.
Use to add a comment on something that you have just said, usually adding something that you think the other person will be interested in.
Are you scared?
As a matter of fact, I am. Do you mind if I help myself to another glass of sherry?
As a matter of fact, I do mind.
Is he a friend of yours?
Certainly not. As a matter of fact, I hardly know him.
Эта идиома выполняет главным образом эмоционально-усилительную функцию. Используется либо в ответной реплике, которая заключает в себе подтверждение или отрицание сказанного собеседником, либо используется, когда желают добавить что-то к уже сказанному.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom a slip of the tongue.
So instead of going, oh my God, wow, my English is terrible, you can say, it was just a slip of the tongue, sorry.
Secondly, as Matthias and many of you pointed out in the second definition of prime, an integer is prime if, whenever it divides a product of two numbers, then it divides at least one, not exactly one of the numbers. So, Dioxol, I hope you didn't lose too much sleep. That was a slip of the tongue on my part, so good catch.
Come on, let's have it, please.
9 p.m. on January the 31st.
No, it's 9 p.m. on December the 31st. That was a slip of the tongue, but I have to accept it, I'm afraid. You're wrong.
A mistake you make when speaking, such as using the wrong word.
I didn't mean to tell her that. It was a slip of the tongue.
Did I call you Richard? Sorry, Robert, just a slip of the tongue.
In the context of the interview, this statement can only be considered a slip of the tongue.
Define the Russian equivalent to the English idiom outstay one's welcome.
As time was tight and I didn't want to outstay our welcome, I gave that up and tried to do some still shots, some static pictures instead.
But I also had a rule that I'd learnt in India. I'd stayed at a Gurdwara at the Golden Temple in India, and it's part of the Sikh religion to offer hospitality, but only for 3 days and 3 nights. After that, you can move on. So I'd adopted this. I quite like that because you don't want to sort of burn your bridges or outstay your welcome. So I'd adopted this mentality and I was pretty rigid with it. So for 3 years, I never spent more than 3 nights in one place.
This is the first of 3 epic tracks I've chosen for you for the show this week. I hope you enjoy them. So they're a little longer than normal, but it's my contention that these epic tracks do not outstay their welcome. This is one from Supergrass's eponymous album, Supergrass. Maybe not one of their best albums. Kind of the one, was this their 3rd or 4th, maybe?
To stay as a guest in a place longer than someone wants you to stay. By extension, to have one's presence become unwanted in a particular environment.
One more cup of tea and then we'll go. We don't want to outstay our welcome.
The afternoon was fine and warm. Moreover, since twilight still fell early, his guests would thus have less opportunity to settle down and overstay their welcome.
She had the ratty air of one who felt she had outstayed her welcome.
Более буквальная идиома означает пробыть в гостях больше, чем вас готовы радушно принять. Притяжательное местоимение меняется в зависимости от того, кто злоупотребляет чужим гостеприимством. В более широком смысле она означает, что чье-либо присутствие стало нежелательным в определенной среде.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom accidentally on purpose.
In other cases, men would reportedly walk into the ladies' dressing room accidentally on purpose, or the company would hire actresses to go into the crowd and flash the fans.
To those other profile busts of the king, created by the medalist, and accidentally on purpose indexed by Kosovo in his own medal portrait.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, Tim. In a later level, I accidentally, on purpose, killed one of Phineas's pet pigs because I thought maybe there was a quest object inside of it. My bad.
If you do something accidentally on purpose, you intend to do it, but you pretend that it was an accident. He bumped into her accidentally on purpose. I'm sure the letter had been left there accidentally on purpose. If I, accidentally on purpose, forget to bring her address with us, we won't be able to visit her after all. Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom a penny for your thoughts.
And had people come in where he had a sign outside that said a penny for your thoughts, and they filmed all this really funny content of people coming in, asking Guillermo a question.
Jonah's mind was hungry to think and learn and grow, and he was always seeking new, exciting things to know. A penny for your thoughts, my friend, we all would sometimes cry. But what went through his head, $1 million couldn't buy.
You can say to someone, a penny for your thoughts.
Something that you say in order to ask someone who is being very quiet what they are thinking about. A penny for your thoughts.
Oh, I was just thinking about how to tell him I'm leaving.
A penny for your thoughts.
You'd pay twice not to know them.
It doesn't rain pennies from heaven anymore, and nobody would offer just a penny for your thoughts. Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom after all is said and done.
After all is said and done, this new technology has the potential to be a real game changer in the aeronautics community.
But after all is said and done, even with all the advanced technology, the most amazing thing is that we've made all these discoveries using something that's essentially an upgraded compass.
After all is said and done, each country will review the study data and decide whether to authorize the vaccine for use.
When everything is finished and things have settled, also, when everything has been considered.
After all is said and done, it was a great holiday, even though the airline lost our luggage.
After all is said and done, we decided to get divorced because we think it's the best solution for us and for our children.
I didn't get an A in chemistry, but after all is said and done, I'm very pleased with my grades for this semester.
Фраза используется для обобщения опыта или для того, чтобы сделать выводы о споре. Также используется, чтобы подчеркнуть самый важный момент, который кто-то должен помнить о ситуации или когда все в ситуации утрясается и вы завершаете мероприятие или деятельность.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom make no mistake.
We solve problems. We don't content ourselves with the thought that at least we're doing better than Spain. And make no mistake about it, this is a very real problem.
Did they place their soda between their legs, freezing their thighs to the bone? Or did they place their drinks on the floor, leaving themselves open to spillages? It's a dilemma and no mistake.
We now need to move beyond this narrative of powerlessness. Because make no mistake, the climate crisis will be orders of magnitude worse than the pandemic if we do not take the action that we can still take to avert the tragedy that we see coming towards us.
And no mistake used to show that you are sure about the truth of what you have just said. Make no mistake used to emphasize what you are saying, especially when you want to warn somebody about something.
So, how's life treated you?
Oh, I can't complain. I haven't traveled, but I've seen a bit of life, and no mistake.
He is a scoundrel, and no mistake.
Make no mistake. We had a major work of television last night.
He is here to spy on us, make no mistake about it.
And no mistake.
Считается несколько старомодной и имеет распространение главным образом в британском английском.
Make no mistake.
Таких ограничений не имеет. Обе идиомы подчеркивают уверенность говорящего в сказанном, при этом
make no mistake
нередко имеет оттенок предупреждения.
Define the Russian equivalent of the English idiom. The fact of the matter is that.
But the fact of the matter is that what is going on is a kind of emergent complexity. That's what we're seeing in this fingered speech.
No, it's certainly not to avoid it, although you'd love to think that everybody could do it. The fact of the matter is that most organizations spend most of their time dealing with failure, and each of us as individuals do.
The fact of the matter is that once the Irish people had realised I'd spent more on the fridge than the bet was for, they simply couldn't do enough for me.
Used to emphasize a statement, especially one that is the opposite of what has just been mentioned.
The fact of the matter is that most people consume far more protein than they actually need.
The fact of the matter is that the Egyptians had a deity named Amen, and it is just as relevant as the others' use of the word.
I know these regulations are unpopular, but the fact of the matter is that we have to control property prices if we are going to avoid an economic crisis like what we faced in the past.
Идиома используется либо для подчеркивания какого-либо момента в обсуждении, либо для предоставления факта, который, возможно, не является широко известным или общепринятым, либо для подчеркивания утверждения, особенно такого, которое противоположно тому, что только что было упомянуто.